The Rainbow Nation Halabahu, I don't know if we said in the last episode, but it is propaganda. It was never what their mission was. They needed to sell a story.
Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo. Look. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Spent about 2 racks on handmade new rags. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. That's everybody from sports to college class to rap. I'm back.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ery'thang Black, the podcast that talks about everything blackity, black. I am your host, Oluwatumide, and this is my fabulous host.
Engi.
And this is part 2 of Rainbow Nation. Rainbow Nation, take 2. So we're just going to dive straight into it.
Not wasting time.
Because it's an extensive topic.
Okay.
So we're starting with the TRC because that's where we left
Yeah.
off. Like, we didn't really touch base proper with the TRC.
With the TRC.
So in simple form, the TRC is a commission, or was a commission rather, that aimed to bring people together in the name of forgiveness. So you state what you did, you'd get amnesty, and the families or individuals who were harmed by you would get closure. Failure of the TRC, for me, is the lack of atonement from all sides, but particularly from white people, because you see it present day, in which if anything had to go wrong, their hands in the air, and it's like, oh, it's the ANT's fault. Then it's like, okay, grand, but this is a system. Hence why they call it systematic XYZ, because it stems from somewhere. We wouldn't be at this present point if the gear was fixed a while back. So with the lack of atonement, what the TRC did for me is that it just said, okay, these are the bunch of white people that did something wrong. So you guys need to say sorry, and then we keep it moving, as if the other millions did not have a hand in it, inadvertently or directly. Because as much as people say ignorance is bliss, ignorance gets people killed. And you can only be ignorant for so long. So you can only say for so long, we didn't know, because the boards were up. You didn't have a pass, but other people had a pass to come in and out of the city. You didn't see your white peers being cleaners or waiters. You saw people who weren't white being cleaners or waiters. So how long can you use the, sorry, I didn't know excuse, you know? Like, it only takes you so far.
I mean, for me, the I didn't know card is the worst card, but I feel like just in, like, I'll get into that as we speak on. But your point on atonement, because I think that's why, particularly in our generation, we really, like, speak to anyone, most people our age, we're going to tell you that we do not think that the TRC was effective. And I think a lot of people argue that it wasn't at all. I am split, you know, with the TRC. I think there are things about it that were transformative for the time. But I think overall, what it was supposed to do and the direction I was supposed to go just didn't happen. And that's due to various things within the mandates. The whole part of amnesty, like, why amnesty? Why are people getting amnesty for egregious crimes against humanity? You know, which was what the TRC was trying to combat at the time.
Because if you look at the Nuremberg
trials
in Germany, it was a matter of, this was also a crime against humanity, and humanity would be Jewish people, that context, right? In which you experimented on them, you killed them, you put them in internment camps. so you have to be punished for said crime.
You-
I feel like, sorry,
Yeah.
babes. I feel like with the TRC, it didn't happen because for them it was a matter of, okay, but our brothers and sisters also took part in a quote unquote crime.
a
So,
war crime.
so exactly. So we don't want them in a sense to go to prison. But the fault with that thinking is it was a retaliation.
Yeah.
Like as kids, I don't know about you. My mom, if you hit me, she told me you hit the person back so that they know I must not touch this person again. It's just a reflex. You don't do to someone that you wouldn't want done to yourself. I mean, it's even in the Bible. So in this context, on our end, I would say the best justification you could give was that you've already forced black people into townships. You are poisoning their waters. You are giving them passbooks. You've made them feel less than, especially black men. You've emasculated them to a point where they come home and abuse their wives to feel some sort of superiority, right? So there is going to be a pushback. And them fighting the white community in the violent manner was the pushback. However, I stand to be corrected with that.
Yeah. The pushback from
Black people
black people.
to white people.
White people.
Because there were black people who
Yeah.
did.
I mean,
You know.
for me, I think there was something like tragically beautiful about the fact that people could share their stories about what their personal stories and their personal losses and their personal experiences about what really happened to them and the loved ones that they lost and the traumas. You know, that part, the catharsis part, for me, I feel like it's something that we should still be listening to till this day. We should still be able to put on the TV and that TRC and people are still coming out and still admitting
True.
and still saying the things that they need to say.
Because I doubt everyone
Yeah.
came forward.
Yeah, I doubt.
Like,
So for me, that aspect of the TRC is not what was problematic, like we've mentioned. It's more of the thing of, okay, now that we've shared our stories, where do we go from here? And it's like you cannot give people the platform to say what they need to say, give others amnesty, and then others, you know,
Prison
prison time. And that even within that, it's like your FW, de Klerks, the real instigators of apartheid aren't
Exactly.
the punished ones. It's the foot soldiers, you know.
and not that the foot soldiers went wrong.
not that the foot soldiers went wrong, but the guy who ordered the hit
The head honcho also has to go down.
has to go down, and that didn't happen. And then, like you said, the situation of black people who committed war crimes. You know what I mean? That was a very sensitive thing. The whole Matikizela, you know, the Stompy situation with Winnie, and all of that. And I think people, obviously, with such a sensitive thing, didn't really wanna say, you know, because imagine coming up and saying, yeah, me and my friends, we went and we put a tire over someone and we burnt them. That was the type of thing that was happening. And like now you have to say it, but the circumstances, you know, under which you behave that way, you know, under normal, if it wasn't apartheid, you wouldn't have done that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like with regards to the black community, because we can only speak on our
the
end,
black community.
everybody was, it was war. It was a war zone. No one could afford a snitch in the camp. No one could afford okay, this plan is not going to go through because, like Silverton Siege, if they didn't have a snitch in their camp, it wouldn't have ended the way it did.
Yeah.
But it ended the way it did because of a snitch.
Yeah.
So now for people, it was a matter of we can't afford this, snitch or not. I would rather move on with life,
Yeah.
knowing that you were a snitch and I got you,
Yeah.
right? And not that I was contemplating on whether you were or not. I let you go, and now you've messed up the whole operation that could take us one step further
Yeah.
to freedom.
Yeah.
That was everybody's mindset, like, you know.
Yeah.
So everyone, it was animalistic. Everyone became a
Yeah.
cold-hearted beast, a cannibal.
Everyone had
If you
to.
so,
You had to
you had to beef
survive.
up,
You had to survive. And
thick skin.
But I think my question is for if we specifically look at the Black community, because there was also a lot of black on black
But violence,
violence, Nkata violence, and where do we draw the line of morality in the sense of the TRC with that being said, with the war crimes? Because if we are demanding justice from white people, we need to demand justice from ourselves in a way. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes it was a suspected snitch. It wasn't a real snitch.
Yeah.
Some snitches were actually people are suspected of being a snitch were kids, 16-year-old kids that were violently
But
killed.
they used everyone, Chomi, that's the thing. Like, they used everyone, from the gogo, the innocent gogo that you would never suspect, to the smart 6-year-old that could prat, they used every single person. That's why all bets
were
off.
But I understand that, but I'm just saying, where do we draw the line of morality? Where do we put that line? Because I think it's hypocritical if white people obviously were killing innocent black people because we were stopping their, agenda.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we're doing the same to our own people.
I feel like most of it stemmed from tribalism at one point and not actual innocence, because the black on black violence was prominent between two black bodies.
But also within, I don't think, like, there were many situations happening at the time, despite the biggest one that we know of, which would be Nkata. And even before all of that period of the 80s, when the violence was deep, there was still situations of suspected snitches within the ANC or within whatever movement or party or what do you call them? Yeah.
Organization, whichever word. Yeah.
Where situations like that would happen. And there were many innocent people, again, who tragically, and this is on probably on a more personal basis than the plight of the whole fight and the whole struggle. And for me, it's like the TRC was also a platform for those stories, for those pains, and people need catharsis for that too. People need justice for that too. And I think that's also a part of the reason why the TRC was so contentious, is because from a black perspective, I was fighting, I was the leader, I had to make these horrible but hard decisions. Probably didn't want to, probably wouldn't have, had I had my, like you said, it could have been the innocent koko you didn't know, but you have to make the decision. So I think when it came from the black people's side, it was just like harder.
It was harder because, in a sense, which they did come forward, what do you then say? Because you, at that present moment, remember, still don't know if the person you killed or not is a snitch. You just come forward and say, I killed this person because they were a snitch. Because what you're doing is confessing to a crime. So you would literally have to have someone come tell you, no, actually they were innocent. And how many times did that happen? Very few. I feel like with the TRC, it was a hardball because you had, like you said, leaders on both sides that didn't come forward. Because even if they didn't send out foot soldiers to do their work, clean or dirty, depending on how you look at it, they're still associated to them. Like, for example, a Mandela, he was in prison. So he wasn't overlooking every single operation that went down. But they went down regardless. So he then cannot come forward and say, I did XYZ, because maybe he didn't do XYZ. Maybe it was carried out without him. Maybe it was carried out with the help of Winnie, for an example. Because she started the Mandela Football Club. Or was it Federation Club? I don't know. Like, I'm always stuck between...
I remember it was her, and I think Becky didn't want to face up. De Klerk is another one who didn't show up. Obviously, he wouldn't show up.
Do I understand why they didn't want to face up on our side? In particular, Winnie. Yes, because she gave her all. She didn't enjoy her marriage.
Listen, I stand her.
No honeymoon.
I won't lie. She's
Raised the kids alone.
She's really iconic.
She is.
She should be more celebrated than what she is. But yeah.
So I feel like for her it was a matter of, you're really gonna ask me to come tell you guys 1, 2, 3, blase blase.
Yeah.
About a kid, which I'm not justifying. But you have all of these people behind me that have done worse.
That's why I say that I feel like that's another reason why the TRC was particularly contentious, because it's like when it came to the black people and the crimes that we committed, it's a bit harder because sorry, but de Klerk, he
like, it's easy to say,
you know what I'm saying?
What I mean?
But like from outside, it's like the circumstance, the situation.
It's not black and white.
And it's not black and white. And to be able, but I think the TRC was therapy for the country.
Like, it was a good idea.
Yeah.
It just wasn't carried out properly. And it wasn't carried out by the right set of people. You asked a Christian man to carry it out. Sorry, but the Bible is always turn the other cheek, you know? And I don't think in this moment a turn the other cheek doctrine was needed.
Yeah,
you know
that's what I mean, like with the point that we're making on atonement, righting a wrong, making something right. The TRC was just a platform for people to say, this is what happened to me during apartheid. It was so sad. And we're all crying. You're
saying the wrong,
blah, blah,
but
blah.
now to write it,
exactly.
There's no rectification, if that's even a word. Nothing was rectified. And Malcolm X said this. He was like, you taking a knife that you stabbed me in the back with and pulling it out.
Nigga, you're just going to bleed out.
Anything for me.
You're going to bleed out.
But you fixing the wound is actually what does the most for me. And the wound wasn't fixed. Because after TRC, right, Becky becomes president 1996. Or before that. But in 1996,
let's just
he comes forward and he says, okay, as president of South Africa, what I'm going to do is I am giving a budget of 3 million rand towards people who have been harmed as per the notion of the TRC. And with this 3 million, we're going to give it to people
it's 99, just 99. From 99, yeah.
Okay, but this was in 1996.
Okay.
So, he's not president during this time, but this is what he comes forth and says that, or maybe it was 98, between that time period. And he basically says, if you were harmed so badly from the violence that happened during apartheid, we're going to give you X amount of funds to help you live out your life to its full course, right? And then if you are harmed, but can't work for a certain amount of time, we're also going to give you money. Cool. Did that happen? Never.
But the thing is, that was also a part of the mandate with the TRC, giving money to those people who had been severely hurt, paying for the funeral covers as well. Those things were part of the mandate
But it
for the
didn't
TRC,
happen.
but they didn't happen, and that's why there was no structural or systematic form of like
Or
actual
something that came
justice.
into
Yes,
fruition.
Like
You can't turn back and be like, okay, the TRC did that. There's nothing that is currently here now that you can say that is a result
of the
TRC.
Yeah.
So as much as it's nice and cute to be like Rainbow Nation, diversity, kumbaya, blase, 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 because it sounds nice and it feels nice and it makes us all warm and gushy inside, it is genuinely not a reality.
Yeah.
Now, ambitious example. When you see snakes, you don't say, this one is not a poisonous snake.
No.
This one is a poisonous snake. You see a snake, you see ngozi, you see khafar, you see danger.
You see danger.
You get me? So I would say in a sense it's like with white people. Obviously, not all of them are bad. But it's so much to a point where you don't say some white people are good, some white people are bad. You just be like white people, full stop. Because it's not a trend in South Africa. It's global. History has shown it. From it being in South America with the Aztecs to the natives, to Asia with the Chinese, Indians, to Africa being colonized. There is no record that shows something good has been done by them, right?
Yeah.
And even if it is, even if it has been done, it's very minuscule in comparison to the bad, right? So for me, many a times it's we're Rainbow Nation, we're Rainbow Nation, we're Rainbow Nation. It's like, okay, sure, sharp, fede. If you truly believe that, why are you not actively partaking in transformative constitutionalism, in substantive equality? You get me?
Yeah, no, I completely hear you. This is my theory. And I think it's proven by what we see. The Rainbow Nation, Halabahu, I don't know if we said in the last episode, but it is propaganda. It was never what their mission was. They needed to sell a story, and a beautiful story they did sell.
To make it seem like
to make it
came
seem
out
like,
of, you know,
exactly, like everything is okay and everything, because all those dreams that the Rainbow Nation entails can only be achieved through the undoing of history and systematic change.
Exactly.
We cannot have this narrative and no systematic change, which is what we have currently in South Africa. And now it's just the thing of, clearly you guys just gave us this to
shut us up.
There's
and the misconception always is, because there's a black government, oh, what do we have to do with it? Absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. Because like I said in the other episode, white monopoly capital runs the world. It does. The 1%, they loom. Everybody, Rockefellers, the Queen, the Crown, it runs the world. And within a South African context, you have the big six, as they call them, the Stellenbosch Mafia. They run the show. So you could have your holy beloved Democratic Alliance Party in government, which would make it times 2 worse. But you could have them in power and they would still run the show, because if they can see, I can shake this person with money, they are so cheap, I can buy them and make them do whatever I need them to do, they will do it. And then you're still stuck in the same position. So it's always a they don't know how to run the show. Babes, look at America. Look at Europe. They have a white government. And what is happening?
Black people
Utter
suffer.
chaos. Apart from black people suffering, it's still utter chaos.
It is.
The health system, it being free, still sucks. The NHS in the UK is still overworked and
In
no
England.
resources. Yeah, in England. The same here in Africa, the same here in South Africa.
But,
And
yeah.
it's not because, we have a black government. That's why shit sucks. Because people are always
Yeah.
like, white people know how to run the show. And it's like, okay, sure, we'll give you your flowers here and there. But don't make it seem like black people are incompetent. We are not incompetent. Because we ran kingdoms. We did trading. And we can always go back to that. The issue is who's pulling the strings.
And I hear you on this. I think when it comes to leadership in Africa as a whole, it is lacking.
It lacks.
For sure.
Because people are easily bored.
Yeah, because people are easily bored. But I also think we have to look at the priorities of that class of people. And I think, like in what we just read with Fanon, he did say that, we will achieve freedom, but none of that freedom will be actualized. We won't be able to feel it as a people if the priorities of the state or the nation states aren't for the masses. And unfortunately, in the takeover period, as you said, the economy, we still left it in the hands of the white people, number one. And number two, with the access that the black elites have, it's not like they are taking that and bettering
Because they're
us
coons.
because they're coons.
Because they're coons.
Yeah, because
and
they're
if
coons.
Rainbow Nation existed, you would see the so-called Ubuntu. You'd see the so-called communal help.
Yeah.
It would not be one-sided, and it would not be a charity case with the Red Cross seeing this as a PR benefit in which we are white saviors, blah 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 blah. It would be done from the kindness of the heart, like the Rainbow Nation says, we are diverse and we are kind-hearted people. It would be done from there, but it's not. That's not the stance with it. That's why it's a facade for me.
A lie. It's a complete lie.
Because like I said earlier, if people were really down for the cause like that, they would be very active.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be one-sided. It wouldn't be, it's only black people protesting. And then the protest now becomes a toy. And it's like, look at how uncivil it is. Why don't they go hand in a memorandum to mang? And it's like, even when you hand out this memorandum, it's going to go straight into the dustbin. It's like, despite you being the minority, you still have so much power.
Yeah.
And you don't use it for good at all. But you want to talk about we've moved past that. Clearly we haven't. Because if you did, you would be setting up a meeting right now with banks, asking them why they charge black people a higher interest rate. You'd be asking them why they're more likely to give a poor white person a loan in comparison to a middle-class black person. You would be advocating for us if you really wanted to rewrite history. So instead of being against us from 200 BC or 800 BC in Egypt, when the Romans came and colonized Egypt, to now, you would be with us here hand in hand. And the love and the diversity and the kind heart, it would be shown. But it's not. So you're just throwing that term around. You don't actually mean or live by it.
That's true. That is completely true. I have a question for you with regards to the Rainbow Nation. Where for you do you think, or why do you think that this myth has been such a successful selling point thus far in terms of just South Africa in general?
Because everybody likes a happy story. Even when we buy books when we know there's a happy ending. We don't buy books when we know it's a tragic ending. So it's been able to live as long as it has lived because of the happiness that it sells. And it's such a short-lived happiness. For me, it's like a fix that you buy to get high, and then after that, when you hit a low, you go and get another one. Like, how many times have you seen the trend where in the 2000s now, you see black people get angry, like, no, we want the land back, we want land expropriation without compensation, blase, 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 and then it just disappears.
Yeah, true.
Oh no, Rainbow Nation, we are one, we need to work with, in the news, we need to work with everybody. And this was during COVID times, actually. And then, boom. No, we want the land back. Julius is in court with AfroForum talking about the Kiss the Boer song, for example. And everybody's up in arms about achieving more as black people and asking the white masses, Hore, Ery'thang, you know, what's going on. And then now watch how it just goes down again, literally. And then people are talking about Rainbow Nation. The most perfect example would be Babalwa and the Stellenbosch case, in which everyone was mad. Every single black person was mad. Like, if that was my child, I would have lit up that place, you know.
Sorry, just to make clarity on which case we're talking about, the one where the white guy
peed on his stuff. So Stellenbosch University.
Yeah.
And which was so funny because it's like, historically, they are known for, you know, this type of
behavior,
derogatory racism, you know. So everybody's upset, and rightfully so, because how dare you, you know? And then 2 minutes later, we're the Rainbow Nation, we are one, we need to stand together, we need to fight.
Him. He can't be expelled from all institutions.
Exactly.
He needs a chance.
Exactly. You see where it swoops in. It always swoops in. The myth always... it comes conveniently. It's always so conveniently placed when you step on black toes. That's when it comes in like, no. The Phoenix shootout where the Indian community in Phoenix were shooting black people who they quote unquote thought looted the stores during July of 2021. They were just recklessly shooting. Next day on ENTA, I kid you not, and they use black people to talk about Rainbow Nation.
They do.
This black lady with the crowd behind her is talking about, no, black, white, Indian, colored people, we need to fight together to be one, Rainbow Nation. And I'm like,
I just don't think this Rainbow Nation thing is something that should be celebrated anymore, because we cannot claim things that we aren't.
There's no result.
Yeah, if we're not the Rainbow Nation. Like, we're not. That what we're supposed to be, we're not. So I don't think we should be claiming that.
And it's okay.
And it's okay. But I have a question to you about how you feel about the hand of the state in with regards to the myth. Because the way I see it, the people who are patting their paunches and who are also benefiting from this myth is that class. It's
the
just
black
called
elite.
The black elite.
The people who created PE knowing that it doesn't work.
The people who are in cahoots with white capitalism. So how do you feel about the hand they have to play? Because we are claiming, right, that apartheid is over. And we have a new constitution. Hooray, right? That has a lot
Which is quote unquote the best in the world.
Yeah, which is the best in the world, and it's helping everyone. Hooray. But we still see the pervasive structures of apartheid, right?
I mean, we still have the West. I think it starts with how we haven't decolonized everything.
So that's what I'm saying. So the colonization is still there. We have Alexandria, we have, you know what I mean, Santon. But not only that, in terms of state violence, I find it to be apartheid-like. If we look at 2020 with the shacks during the social distancing in Cape Town and in Joburg, where the way the police were so
Funny
violent
enough, there were DA governed places. That's the ironic
ANC,
part.
As well as ANC.
And was Gauteng ANC though?
Yeah, but even despite that, the Marikana massacre, you know, that was with Cyril, with the ANC. That's another example of just state violence. You know what I mean? We can compare it to the same state violence that the apartheid government had. You know, so we're just seeing a mirror of the past.
I think firstly, not all skin folk is kinfolk. For me, not every black person is for me. And that was a hard truth that I had to come to. Because, and before I answer you, if we look at an interview phase, for example, you're trying to get a job and HR is a black person, the runaround they give you, bro, compared to a white person, like, yo, I've seen your CV, looks great, you know what, you've got the job, we don't even need to do this interview. 1, 2, 1, 2,
do they even need a CV? Do white people?
No, I don't mean for white people.
Yeah, but
for
just
white
in
people.
general, yeah.
I mean as in how they make things so easy. You know, it's like we are the same. Why can't you make it easy? I'm not saying cheat the system, but in the same breath, I'm saying don't give me the runaround. Right? You have to put a hurdle. Or if you see one black person succeed, no ways, sangoma, for them to not succeed. So for me, it was a matter of not all skinfolk is kinfolk, and that's a very hard truth to accept. Within government, they're definitely not for black people, despite them being black. And that was something that was so hard to come to. Wow. They're really not for us. And you see it in everything they do, hence the mirroring of apartheid, like you said. So with the way the state handles things, you would think because they're black, they'd have our best interests at heart. Furthermore, everyone's. Because you need to remember, if black people are okay, everybody would be okay. Why? Because that means that you're making treatment fair. You're making treatment proper. You're making resources available to everyone, including us. And that currently is not the case, and that has never been the case. The ANC now, for me, is just a name. It is not the body that it used to be, evidently, and it doesn't carry the same mission it should have been carrying after 94. So when people say ANC, 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 I'm like, who exactly are you calling out? Because that's not them. That's an imposter, in all fairness. That's not who the people who fought during apartheid were or what they stood for. And like Mandela said, if the ANC does to black people what the apartheid government did, then we should do to the ANC what they did to the apartheid government. And I feel like the apartheidness...
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I have to give a shout out to that point because, listen, guys, we had to do something.
And I feel like the apartheidness within the ANC is there because of the hand that the Stellenbosch Six have. They have their fist up there, dog.
Yeah.
Like, you can't expect the train to how do I say it? You can't expect it to be black if there's white power within it.
Yeah.
And the white power is the Stellenbosch Six. So obviously, when they deploy soldiers, they're going to scop and donor like they did back in apartheid. Why? Because the people from apartheid are within the ANC. And I'm not talking about freedom fighters. I'm talking about people who pushed the agenda of suppressing black people and exploiting them for economic gain. They are literally within the ANC.
I think the ANC is the rainbow nation. And what I mean by that is that it came into the game, right? And
with good intentions.
they came into the game, good intentions, but they were fighting for something that we were all fighting for the same thing, at that time. It was the land. You know what I mean? When there were rallies, when there were marches, obviously for education and other various things. But it was never lost on the people that what they wanted was the land, was what they wanted was the economy. That's what people were fighting for. CODESA negotiations come. Everything that we fought for is compromised. That just doesn't make any sense at all. It's compromised, but then legally we have provisions that say we're supposed to have those things. Do you understand what I mean? So,
especially Section 9 of the Constitution. Yeah. Section 9 of the Constitution will come and say that the state is obligated to take care of disadvantaged people with regards to basic needs. What are the basic needs? Housing, water, food, clothing? Would clothing fall under a basic need? I'm trying to think of necessities right now. But that's essentially what Section 9 of the Constitution stands for. Do you see it? No. Why? Because budget is 2 billion. When it's time to execute, it's 30 million. 30 rand.
What were you saying about Section 29?
No, Section 9. As in the state is obligated to take care of disadvantaged people.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's of the Constitution.
From what I remember. Section
9 says everyone is equal before the law.
Is it 9 or 39?
I'm not too... 39 is 39. I know 39. I'm just...
36 is limited rights that I know.
39 is not... But 39 is not what you're thinking.
Okay, but it was a Section 9, bro. Like, I am so sure.
Yeah, because 39 is with the interpretation of the Bill of Rights. That one has to be with the Constitution. Well, yeah.
Oh, no, it's 29.
29.
29,
yeah,
sorry.
29.
So, my bad. My bad.
29.
It's 29. So, Section 29 inherently says that everyone has the right to XYZ, XYZ, and that if they can't, state is obligated to make provisions for such. Cool. Do we see it? No. Honestly speaking, I don't have a problem with separation. I don't want to lie to you. The issue comes with the access to resources. So the whole reason as to why Black people couldn't flourish even within separation is because you were purposefully put down. Be it in America. How many times did they build a Black Wall Street, Tulsa? It was burnt down by who? White people. Why? Because they weren't happy with the fact that Black people were being successful and were having their own economy. The same here. We have that potential, but it's not being tapped into. Instead, you're being robbed. So you want the resources, you ask for the resources, they give the budget, but greedy people eat it all up. So now, we're at this point where this government has made you so dependent on them that you get upset and you actually don't do something where you can. Like I know white people don't depend on the ANC.
Sorry,
dog.
just like my mind is gone. So I wrote a test. My mind is gone. I asked you a question and you're answering it now. Or is it just the point that you're making?
It's a point I make. I already answered the question.
On what question? First of all, sorry.
The question was if the state, what is my opinion on the state playing a role in the Rainbow Nation? Yeah, and I said the ANC in summary is not the ANC anymore. It's literally a shell. And the reason they play into it is because the big white players back in apartheid are literally the same big white players within it.
So I'm trying to follow the point that you're making now.
Oh, the point I'm making now is like in closing.
Oh,
because we know Rainbow Nation is a facade. I'm saying I don't have a problem if they say you in your corner, you in your corner, you in your corner, you in your corner. So long as everyone still has equal access to everything. Because back then, that was the issue, is that you force people into townships with the Group Act. You then strip them from resources. You make them very poor. You, in a sense, turn them into an animal that they are not. And then you force them to learn a curriculum that is to their detriment. So obviously you have a group of pissed off people.
I hear, like, now I understand what you're saying.
Whereas now, we are free from that. So we have the opportunity to build our own stuff, knowing that there's nobody out there who's going to hinder it. Like I was saying, I doubt white people are waiting for the government to do something. They built their own university with their funds. But people are here shouting, Lusufi, Lusufi, Lusufi. He's not going to do anything. What we need to do is band up as a community and actually get shit done.
I definitely agree with you, just from the, also to make my closing point on the issue of the Rainbow Nation. I think the importance of us highlighting and having this conversation about the Rainbow Nation to begin with is because we have to acknowledge history in whatever conversation we're having about the advancements of Black people. And history has to be undone. There has to be an effort structurally within the systems that are existing to change that. For me, we can do things separately, right? But we will never be successful until we can tap into really dismantling the structures that have weakened us to the point that we're
at right now.
So, and this is why we're having a conversation, because we want people our age, the youth, engineers, doctors, whatever you're doing, to actually realize that as a Black person, you have to empower yourself in order to change these structures. So when you get into that position, like many of the Black elites have the opportunity to do, don't think about your own stomach. Think about think about how to even, because you have to.
No, but now it's not even a matter of I'm thinking on my own stomach. It's so many times where there are Black police officers in America, right, who say, I became a Black police officer to change the way white police officers treat Black people. But because it's such a big giant, sometimes it's not even a matter of your stomach, but how big your opponent is.
But I think even the smallest change is change. You don't have to, I don't think let's say we become lawyers and we enter the job and we make certain changes. I don't think we're gonna leave the industry spotless. You know what I'm saying? The small change you can affect it, because it could have a bigger impact down the line. And with regard to that, that's what I'm saying. It's important that we engage with this discourse, with the history, so that we can understand, okay, this is what's going. This is literally what happened. These are the mistakes. We know where the TRC failed, and we know where the ANC failed. Where can we make up for it? Because there had been advancements. We're just not acknowledging them that much in this episode. There are advances. There are things that have happened for us that give us the position to take it further. I mean, like, not all is lost.
Like, the baton was definitely handed to us. And also, I don't expect our parents' generation to do anything. Because I won't lie, our parents' generation are a group of people who, like the elites, were chasing economic growth. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But right now, that's still the agenda. Whereas for us, the fight is different. For us, our fight is to remove morally corrupt people from the positions they're in and to change the moral compass of the society we live in right now, as well as the thinking. Because if you ask them to stop going to work so that their bosses can pay them more, they're definitely not going to do that. But yes, this was a nice chat.
Yeah, this was a very nice chat.
This chat could go on for days, chat. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. See you next episode. Love you lots like jelly tarts. Bye.